Today we are going to install the SHV500LP servo in the limited edition purple into the Element Enduro. And it's gonna match the purple. So that intro was a lie. The purples don't exactly match, but it's pretty dang close for having two different assembly factories doing two separate things without giving them, I don't know, is there special instructions for getting people to color match? I've seen the same factory not be able to color match their own colors. So I have a hard time believing that we could get everything to match from two factories. Now we have the fun task of uninstalling the prototype servo, which is exactly the same as this, except for the wiring that is coming out of it, so that we can showcase the real servo, which is the same as the one that's currently installed, on the rocks. So, doing this for you. If it's up to me, I'd sleep in every day and do nothing. That would be really boring though. That actually isn't what I would do. I would play in the garden all day, is what I would do. But I'd have to have food to eat. And my gardening skills aren't good enough to make enough food, to have enough food to eat. So I guess I'd have to get really good at gardening. Or have a day job so that I could eat food. Ah, this modern world. It's a catch-22. Actually, saw something this morning about just that. You know, the old ideal of I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna quit my job, I'm gonna move out into the woods or into the plains somewhere, and I'm gonna subsistence farm. I'm gonna unplug from society. And I realize after just trying to garden for a couple years now that it's extremely difficult. It is extremely difficult. I have been at it and trying to improve my genetic situation now for 3 years on the food side and 5 years on the general plant side. And I feel like I'm still 5 years out from having food, at least enough food, if I'm lucky. So yeah, it seems like a hard life. So for now, we'll just keep doing the same thing, having that day job, right? We're not gonna go retire out in the woods somewhere. That would be boring. All right, here's our old prototype. Looking good, actually. I'll save that for another build where it matches. And here is our replacement. And before I get the servo horn installed, I'm actually gonna plug this into the radio and make sure that it is centered. And the nice thing about this guy is that we don't have to power it up at a high voltage. There we are. Then we can get it centered. We know that it'll be centered about like yay. That going forwards. So it should just be coming straight out of the end of this servo. Yeah, that should be it. We'll see how that turns out for us. Flip it back over, tighten your servo horn. In this case, we're using a Vanquish clamping 25 tooth. Oh. Make sure the panhard's not in the way. That helps. Easy. Easy enough. All right. Now, before I tighten it down, we'll boot it up again. Make sure the servo is pointing straight. It is not, so we will need to adjust our steering trim. Which way? It's as far as we can go. All right, I'm gonna move that horn before I bolt everything down. We're gonna move that horn over a position, and that will hopefully straighten up the steering. Here we are. I had to put my steering trim all the way over for some reason. The steering configuration with the VP servo horn, yeah, needed all the throw. I wonder if I was just missing a spline back and forth when I was doing the install, because typically a 25 spline there's enough locations. Having to turn the wheel, turn the servo a little bit just so I can get access to it for the VP clamping. There we are. Now that we're going for realsies with this servo, I unplugged it from the RX, plugged it into the included adapter. We plug in our 3S LiPo power into the JST plug, making sure that we have red and black matched up, because I'm pretty sure that JST plugs can be forced backwards. And then, we plug the remaining lead into the radio. There's really only one way it can go. I'm not gonna say it can't be messed up, but because I know that y'all will find a way. But there's only really one way it can be plugged in. All right, and then we do my patented super not rat's nest wiring job. Hey, that almost looks nice. Like I should throw a zip tie around that. I'm gonna, before I zip tie, actually plug this in and test it just to be sure. It doesn't matter how much experience you have in this industry, and it's always a good idea to test first. All right, looks like I'm not quite getting full throw in one direction, and I'm getting lots of throw in the other. So I probably should have stayed with how I had the servo originally installed. But no matter, I'm just gonna run with it. I can deal with that later. It still throws pretty tight. Yeah, it's an element. It's got great steering. So now we zip tie. I'm gonna even double zip tie this. And by double zip tie, I mean a single zip tie, but I'm gonna actually clip the end off. And yeah, cameraman's right, it's a little boomy in here. Now that I'm thinking about it, we need to put some soundproofing up. By the time I get to that, we'll probably have already built the shop. So we'll see, it'll be a race in between my sheer laziness of putting up sound deadening material and the crew that builds the shop. I mean, the addition, sorry. It's technically part of the house. Get that unloaded jitter. I've got a little extra weight on this with my thumb steering mechanism, and so when you do this, it adds a little extra jiggle. It's kind of fun. All right, it's time to go outside and have fun. I'm gonna call it good for this episode. If you do have any questions, thank you for tuning in on this episode. If you do have any questions, put them down below. As always, have a good day.